standard association governance bodies. And you see, having so many standardization pioneers with us, you see that IDSA is really working hard on a global standard or a global de facto standard. Nice, Dr. Charvet, that you are with us. Welcome. So then we have Vaibhav Sharma with us. He's sitting over there in opposite of me. Vaibhav is a global cybersecurity lead at TÜV Süd. TÜV Süd, for those who don't know it, is a certification organization from Germany, in the southern part of Germany. He's co-chair for the Cloud Security Alliance CSA IoT Working Group and senior member for ISA Working Groups and Standard Committee. So, Vaibhav, very nice that you are with us here physically, and welcome. And then finally, we are jumping again on the other side of the table, and I want to introduce to you Dr. Götz Brasche. Götz is responsible for the R&D activities at the Huawei Munich Research Center. He serves as the Chief Technology Officer at the Huawei European Research Institute's Cloud Division and Europe. And I think Götz is also a long data space enthusiast, so to say, and therefore it's really a pleasure. Nice that you're with us today.
Thank you.
So with this, we are jumping to the opening remarks, which are given by the two gentlemen, Lars Nagel and Ben Gunn. And I think we can start with Lars. Lars, the floor is yours for a brief introduction to today's roundtable.
Thank you so much, Thorsten. It's more than a great pleasure being here with you and jointly driving that big and important endeavor of making data spaces tangible reality for all of us. And I think this is also what we need to make ourselves aware of again and again, that we are currently really building the future here. I'm really happy to see all of you here in Barcelona at that round table, kind of round table, right? And also to see these impressive list of speakers from all over the world. And well, we are the International Data Spaces Association, and we have become, in the last years, a true global movement. And I think this was a great expression of that we have already achieved a lot. And as Thorsten has mentioned, IDSA is on its way since 8 years now. So we've celebrated our 8th anniversary last week. And to cite Boris Otto, when we've founded IDSA, he said, like, well, bringing data spaces to life, this is a decade endeavor. And so we are still on that journey, but we are really confident that we can really make that paradigm shift with all the help from all over the world that we can see. Data spaces is a true paradigm shift for data economy. We always talk about data economy. We always talk about AI, artificial intelligence, but this is all relying on sharing valuable data sets that are of value for a company or for a person, for whatever reason, because of money or because of intellectual property. And we need to come up with a trustworthy, sovereign infrastructure, secure infrastructure, that, well, makes people and organizations confident to share data. Because only with, well, giving them the confidence that they can share data, they will be willing to share data. Most of the data today is not shared. And this is the big problem for AI and the further flourishing of data economy. And that is what we need to overcome with data spaces. So our endeavor here is not smaller than that. And on that way, we have to work on a lot of challenges and come up with a lot of solutions, because we do not only have like legal uncertainties, a lot of technical complexities, but we also do see a lot of business opportunities which are still undiscovered. And therefore, what we are doing here is really a holistic view on this new idea of data economy and of data spaces. And we can only win that paradigm shift, win that game in an ecosystem play. So this only works on a global scale because, well, data see no borders, and world trade, world economy is per se global. And this is exactly what we need to do. We need to come up with this holistic foundation for this trustworthy environment that we call data spaces. So reference architectures, rule books, and well, at the end, you need something very easy. Well, we all know the internet, and the internet is for, well, like normal data. But what we are talking about is complex data, really valuable data sets. And we need to come up like a new mechanism, like, so to say, on top of the internet. And therefore, we said that we need something easy like the internet protocol, and we've started to define the data space protocol. So therefore, big complexity, big challenges, big perspectives, but we need to make it easy. Therefore, we have the data space protocol, and we need software and services to adapt this. And this is also the call for industry, and therefore I'm so happy that we are sitting here with a lot of industry representatives, that we are so close with Huawei and with a lot of other partners, that we build the software and services to make the vision happen that I just mentioned, and that we have like data spaces off the shelf. So it needs to be commodity. You do not need to ask like, well, how can I build a data space? How can I adhere to a data space? What can I do? No, it needs to be just there. Only with that, so with the trustworthy components, just off the shelf, we can make the idea of data spaces happen. Therefore, we need to embrace all the software vendors, the cloud providers, all the tech companies to build their offerings, and therefore we need open source software to really scale. And then we can also scale the ecosystems. And that is what I would like to ask all of us here, and also all the industrial players from all the different economic sectors, areas, continents and countries. Let's build the data spaces. And let's not stop at borders, because, well, data do not stop at borders. So let's see that we come up with global mechanisms to really share data, and that we then benefit from that massive more data sharing, because that is what we all want to see. Data spaces is the baseline for our future wealth. So it does not only have a business, but also a societal aspect. And I think it will make all our lives better. Looking forward to discuss all of this with you today during all the discussions here at the table, but also afterwards. And let's see that we craft some good plans to really take actions afterwards, so that we have a very successful year 2024. Thank you, and looking forward to all the conversations with you.
Thank you so much, Lars, for framing this roundtable. And please, Mr. Ganbin, your opening remarks.
Okay. So I would like to warmly thanks to Mr. Lars Nagel and the whole International Data Space Association and teams for hosting this event. I think it's very important for industry partners to share the good practice and the experience of data exchange, and discuss the industry concerns and the standardization of data space. So I think as an important success factor in the digital economy era, data has become a key component and a key element for development of enterprise. In China, data is regarded as a new type of production factor. So as many relevant organizations are planning to build new data infrastructure to promote and secure the circulation and the development of data elements. So as to fully release the potential value of data and promote the development of the industry. So I think the biggest challenge, just Mr. Lars just mentioned, for data exchange is trustworthy. How to build trusted data flow standards and the mechanisms is a common problem in the industry. I think the concept and reference architecture of IDSA provide a set of the effective solution for the industry, which has been widely adopted by many companies. Huawei has developed data exchange products that are trustworthy, controllable, and verifiable, and has been deployed to support data exchange in multiple scenarios between Huawei and the upstream and the downstream industry chains. In addition, Huawei also provides the Exchange Data Space Cloud service to support enterprise data sharing to unlock the value of the data. Huawei is looking forward to work together with the industry partners to discuss and develop the unified global data space standards through sharing the best practice cases and to promote the development of data space industry together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gandin, for this framing as well from a perspective of one of the global cloud providers. I think we can state this. And before I hand over to the next speaker, let me just correct one error which I made, because I forgot to mention and introduce one of the speakers. This was maybe because we have 2 times Qingguo in this speaker list, and directly after Qingguo Liu from the China Electricity Council, I should have also introduced Mr. Professor Qingguo Ming, who is also joining via online stream. And why is this important? Because not only Professor Ming is Professor of Mechanical Engineering at Shanghai Jiao Tong University, he's also the director of the International Data Spaces Association China Research Lab in Shanghai, which we have established last year. Sorry, Qingguo, that I forgot you before, but now I have corrected my error. And I should also mention that we are recording this session, so everyone who is not in favor that we are recording it should either leave the room right now or switch off the online stream. We will record it. And maybe for the speakers here around the table, if you see my red light blinking, this means that your 10 minutes are over. Then you can decide to finalize in 1 minute, otherwise I will interrupt you. Okay, so with this, I think we can stay with the very tough agenda. So now I want to hand over to Boris Otto to give us a keynote on data spaces in Europe and beyond. And why is Boris the right person to do so? It's not only, like I mentioned, that Boris is the long-term board member of IDSA, but he's also leading the Data Spaces Support Center, which is an endeavor financed by the European Commission, overseeing a lot of topics on data spaces. Yeah, and therefore we are very happy, Boris, that you're with us. And please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Torsten. It's also a great pleasure to be here. And perhaps before I start my little keynote, it strikes me that always Torsten looks into my direction when he reminds us to keep the time limits. So I don't know why he does it, but I try to lead by example and stick to my 10 minutes, of course. Right. Yeah, as I said, it's a great pleasure and also an honor to be here because I think it shows that things are really moving into the right direction. And as also Torsten mentioned, I would take a perspective not only as a director of Fraunhofer ISST, but also from the Data Spaces Support Center view. And that basically fits also nicely to what Lars also pointed out when he referred a little bit to the journey that we are on. And I would also like to take a little bit a look into what's upcoming. I think, so if we move, yeah, right. So if we ask ourselves, so how far have we come? We probably might share all the view that over the last years, much of the effort has been spent to deal with fundamental questions about what actually is a data space, how does a data space work, what kind of technology we need to develop and to put into place in order to make data spaces happen for the ultimate goal of sharing data and for basically the final goal such as exist, to maximize the use of the data. And we are here today in a very important, I think, part of our journey, because technology is there. And that is also something that was mentioned by Mr. Ganbin, that Huawei is committed and also has developed their services and solutions based on the standards that we together develop. And that is also true for others. I see Sven, for example, in the room. Deutsche Telekom, T-Systems has an offering based on the standards that we together developed. And I should also say that, for example, last week I heard that SAP built the EDC component, basically what is an implementation of the IDS blueprint, if you may, into the so-called business technology platform. And that is basically the platform that sits underneath all SAP components that are there, and it's going to be shipped worldwide to all customers. So, and that's, I think, a big success. But now the question is, where do we stand now? So technology is also, and that's of course something useful to say, not an excuse anymore, because now it's, let's say, rolling it out. So the focus must now be on the user and also must now be on adoption. And if you have a look into the vertical axis here, where it says utility, so basically the business benefit directly depends on how much data is actually shared and used. So what we need to make sure is that we put the technology now into place in order to, well, to live up to the promise and also the opportunities that are residing in data sharing. You can also see, let's say, in gray, so basically as one of the layers here in this view graph, so-called maturity stages. This is what we develop, and which is something that we also use from the Data Space Support Center to assess the current status of the data space initiatives that are around there. I should also say at this point perhaps that we identified, I think, 120 or 130 of the different data space initiatives in different, let's say, levels of maturity, and it's up to, I think, us to help them to move, let's say, to the right, to basically increase the adoption and the use. For those of you who are interested, from the IDSA Association, we have been having the so-called Data Space Radar, which is a graphical tool where you can basically browse also through all the data space initiatives that we are aware of. And that is something that's also going to be adopted in the Data Space Support Center. So now, as I said, this is now the phase where we should focus on maximizing adoption. And that brings me to, let's say, the core of my little presentation, because in the end, we should focus, as I mentioned the other day, on the business rationale, why data spaces are deployed in order to share data. And the good news is that there are really a variety of different business case patterns. You can see them in mobility, in healthcare, in automotive, and so on. I don't want to go through the details. But what we also need to put a focus on is to better understand, let's say, the ecosystem logic behind data spaces. And that means that organizations, companies, even individuals team up because none of them has all the data which is needed to yield the business benefits that I mentioned earlier on. So in order to leverage the opportunities, of course, and to make business benefits come to life, as mentioned, we need to adopt, or to focus on the adoption by users for solving real-world problems. And that is something where I personally also put my focus on for the upcoming months and years. Saying that, that also brings us to the point, looking into the user, we all know, let's say, methodologies like user stories and customer journeys and so on and so forth. But before I come to that, I think it's always worthwhile to understand that there are not, let's say, the one group of users or the one group of customers in a data space, but it's rather a multi-sided platform, as we know it also from consumer app platforms, for example. I don't want to, let's say, elaborate on all of those, but for example, we have companies that we can refer to as data holders. So they might think, okay, I'm engaging in the data space because somebody else might find my data useful, and then I get, let's say, some reimbursement or get some data that I need in return. But also we have, let's say, for example, on the left-hand side, participants in a data space that just provide data apps or even business apps, right? And they usually want to make money when, let's say, their apps are used. And that is something different than, for example, once more like a data user. So everybody has a different user journey and user story to go through. And that is something that we need to understand. And what I want to do is give a little bit like a couple of examples. So this is a very simple one, basically a user story from the perspective of a data provider. And we have many data providers, and Mr. Ganbin also referred to the industrial organizations that usually participate in the data space to share their data. And this is the example of an automotive car maker that basically collects and uses the floating car data from the vehicles that they basically sell. And these guys have consent from the vehicle owners to use the data. And the company wants to provide the data in a mobility data space, for example, to get data in return. For example, they need detailed traffic sign information and so on and so forth. And the user journey is, you can say, it's just 7 simple steps, right? These companies need to register in a mobility data space. So then if they pass that, they get a digital certificate. Then they need to publish their data in a catalog. Then they eventually get a request from a third party, from a data user, to use their data. They negotiate the conditions. Basically, they come up with a contract. Then they share their data. The data holder has also the opportunity to observe and monitor what's happening with their data once shared, and then they got some compensation, and that's basically it. That's all basically which entails a user journey of a data provider. So it's not that complicated, and sometimes we tend to, let's say, overcomplicate things, and we should focus on these fundamental principles like KISS, keep it simple, and these kind of things, and I think that's important. Good news is that, for example, if we look into the user story of a business app user, and just very briefly, in this example, the user is a citizen, so an individual of the city of Brussels, for example, who frequently drives with his electric car to different places in downtown Brussels. And to ensure he doesn't lose time of searching for charging points, personally, I think this is still a little bit a mess. He uses a micro-navigation app provided by the city of Brussels in order to really find the charging points for his car. And this user journey is refreshingly and surprisingly easy. It's basically downloading an app, registering, and then use the app. And these guys will never know that underneath sits a data space that makes the data available for the app that they use. And my point here would be that we should also basically focus really on only those kind of or those parts of the story that are really related to the end user user story, and basically shadow all the complexity below, because that's our job. As I said, we focus on technology, but these guys just want to get a problem solved, right? Right, so as I said, technology is necessary but not sufficient. It's converging, and what we need to do is learn from things that work, deploy them, and make users happy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Boris, so much for this comprehensive introduction, the overview, and also the portfolio of different activity lines which we are currently witnessing. So let me use the handover to our next speaker to also introduce now the right Alberto, because Alberto just came in. So now you know also the right face with Alberto Beriteaga from Tecnalia. Alberto, I already introduced you, so everyone knows what you are doing. And I also want to introduce to you Oscar Lazaro, who also joined us now. He's the managing director of Innovalia and is active with various data spaces activities, not only within IDSA, but also within Gaia-X and BDVA. Welcome, Oscar. So, but now we are moving to a very special company. And do you know why this company, which is represented today by Sven Löffler, is very special? Because it was the company who has the first IDSA-based data connector, which was certified. And I think this is an applause. So we are moving now to the session 1, exchange and discussion of data space practices. And Sven, you will share with us a use case, data sharing in cross borders, get onboarded with T-Systems and start your journey. You choose this as the very motivating title. So I think we are very interested in getting to know what you will tell us. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thanks for having me. It's a great honor. Thanks to IDSA, thanks to Huawei, and yeah, let me catch up what Boris said at the beginning, right? It's all about adaptation. It's about user journeys and make it happen, makes the system work. And I would like to give you a quick idea how it can look like, right? What you could use and how you would use it. But before I start, you see this data space initiatives, right, around the world. Boris said 120, 130, yes, and it's growing, right? But what I would like to point out here in this picture, for that reason I selected this, it's all about collaboration, it's all about trust in these different initiatives, right? When we are speaking from IDSA to a data space initiative in US or in Japan, it's all about how we would like to make it happen, right? And I think when we are seeing this here, I think the user journey starts with a trustful relation between each other. And this is really crucial. For that reason, we are really happy that now the association and the activity around Gaia X initiated a concept called Trust Clearinghouse as a trust anchor. And we are really happy to position this to really validate if participants in such a data space are really trusted. So that means there's no need to not really trust each other. And this is also, to highlight this in Europe, the most prominent one, right? One use case in direction of OEMs, Catena X, you heard maybe about it. It's a radical collaboration in data space activities in the automotive industries. All major players are trying to overcome the challenges that they are seeing in the industry. Of course, it starts with innovation and business impact, really interesting use cases in the direction of sustainability, resilience. The most prominent one, when you see this supply chain, right? It's not a thing that you can address in one country. That is, you have to address this in several countries to really have a whole transparency about the whole chain. And this is relevant for participants, for all participants in the data space. That means for small, medium, mid-size, and even the larger companies are part of this journey. And the idea is how this can look like, right? Here is a use case on the left-hand side in the direction of regulations or cost efficiency, because what is really important is that we focus on business value, easy access, business value, cost-efficient way of implement these use cases, business scenarios like traceability in parts, or visualize the carbon footprint. And when I mean carbon footprint, product carbon footprint, right? That it means the really accuracy of data and not an average value that we're using here. We would like to establish really a transparent view about the whole product and the whole parts that are compiled in a car. And you see the number on the left-hand side, right? 275,000 suppliers are in this overarching space. And of course, the most prominent ones, I'm just discussed this during the breaks, material pass, battery pass, digital product pass. And if you would really consequently implement these passports, not even for attending a use case as a digital passport, but even for the products, then of course you will see immediately that is needed and relevant for all of these different initiatives. And I'm talking specifically scope 3 of data space. That's more technical, not a technical, but it gives you the business sense of the product carbon footprint. And one example that I selected as a use case, how it can look like. But my major point is here, we are really lacking in transparency, we are lacking in accuracy and really verification of the primary data, and specifically the scope 3 data that is really mission. And this is a need in 2024, right? That means there is no reason why we should wait. So that my point is, please make the systems work. Let us start immediately. And the first question is, please select your use case, track to a data space, then make your data space architecture ready. That is what the IT or the OEMs or the attendants of the participants have to put, then to put and your data against your models, and of course, then easily you can exchange the data. That is the overall journey that you have to go through. And when I'm looking into it, I would really love to show it to you, right? To unlock the value of data spaces. On the right-hand side, we are here at the Mobile World Congress, right? What is the easiest way to connect people, right? It's a mobile telephone, right? So that means, how easy could it be to download an app, this app called Connect Go, and when I press the button, you'll see on the right-hand side, this video is going. We are certified. This application behind the scenes is certified. You're seeing this is the way how we are getting access. You can come via a browser or via an application. And now I'm jumping into the application, right? Search in data spaces. Look into my profile. I'm at T-Systems. I'm a trusted partner. I have it in my wallet, it's persisted, and see Open Telecom Cloud. Here I verified not only my personal credentials, I verified my infrastructure. This is a trustful infrastructure. And then I'm starting sharing in a sense of sharing data. And see how easy it is. I select the use case, I select the data space, I select my business partner number if it is not attached to my wallet, and then I can specify my access policies, data sovereignty aspects, which persons I would like to share my data, and then I say, okay, this is shareable, accessible via the following terms. Then I upload my report, my quality report, or where my report is indicated, where my PCF value is indicated. So that means now I'm transferring paper into digitalization, into a use case, into PCF. So even here it is simplified in a fantastic way. I'm uploading my file, I'm mapping my paper to the data model, and then it would be visible in the PCF calculator. And as you're seeing it here, now the data is received, and my carbon footprint from 24 sources are now uplifted to 48% of the sources. So that means this is a fantastic way how you would make really use out of it. And this is an easy and simplified way so everybody can download it immediately. You can participate. And whereas a trust mechanism, what I showcased here, we are our overarching portfolio. That means we are interacting, govern participants, we're helping to build applications, but the most important part, and this is what I showcased just, is to really create access to these different data spaces via the connect, what I highlighted here. So that means my message is for this global data space roundtable is, please let us start. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Sven, for this impressive first use case, and also showcasing how easy this in the future can be. When I was listening to your presentation, I have immediately maybe two challenges which I want to distribute here in this round table, because I spotted that your map of the world is wide in China. Yeah? So there are no data spaces initiatives. Let us help Sven when we meet the next time to have a lot of data spaces in China. So I'm challenging Liu Dong, but also Professor Ming, who might listen to us online, that we should please send potential data use cases to IDSA, and then we will transfer it to Sven, that the next time we also have this map filled. And I also know that together with Sven, there are a lot of colleagues from T-Systems working on this, and when we are referring to globalization and global interoperability, I think we can also introduce your colleague, Dandan Wang. She's sitting there. So also a big applause to the team of T-Systems. So now that we are going ahead with our agenda, I want to introduce you the second use case from Europe. And we are lucky that Alberto made it right in time. So we are listening to Alberto talking on connected urban futures, enhancing smart cities via collaborative utilities data integration. Alberto, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And as you introduced, another use case, and in fact, this is a pilot a pre-production pilot. We hope that everything that you are going to see today here in a few minutes, artificial intelligence and data space, will be running and open for business next year. Not a real use case, but a real deployment of a real business running here. Let me check. And well, about urban features, smart cities, we can chat quite a lot, quite a lot of information, a really huge context. But today, we are going to see a little bit of the information we can use in a city, and for the city of tomorrow, that we are going to use the huge amount of data we can get from a city, from the citizens, from the business, from the different companies, from the local authorities, that these kind of actors, these roles are not only providing, but consuming at the same time. We can do quite a lot of things. So in this pilot, we are going to use artificial intelligence to do quite a lot of magic related to constructions, to building sites, to works on the streets, to try to predict the impact of this kind of works in the city and provide feedback to the companies, to the citizens, and to help the construction sites to work a more efficient way. And of course, we have huge amount of data. We have artificial intelligence to feed it, and we are going to set up a data space to exchange data there. Of course, for the data providers, they will keep on providing data. Data consumers will keep on consuming data, but the data space concept here have a huge impact, because we will have, for example, a data space operator to run the data space, even to provide connectors. Even the providers or the consumers can purchase different connectors in the market. They can even deploy open source connectors. We will chat later on about that. And of course, we will need a data space authority to rule all the system and all the infrastructure. So this is a huge change for a city to exchange data using a data space and to use artificial intelligence. Here you have challenges holding back the application nowadays of data on the smart cities and smart city concepts. I'm not going to go in deep, just to show you that a city produces quite a lot of information for the city itself, but for the citizens and the different roles there. And you will read some problems, some needs here that we will tackle with artificial intelligence and with data spaces. Here, I'm not sure if this is this. Okay, I'm going to speak while the video plays. Incoland is our main partner in this pilot. It's the data space authority, or will be the data space authority. You can see here quite a lot of logos. And the main topic here about Incoland, you will hear, if you listen to the video later on, you will hear a short introduction of Incoland. But at the end of the day, and the pilot has to do with that, we will have a city with a lot of pipes, wires, a lot of maps with quite a lot of information about what is happening, what the city is, the soul of the city. We will see it here. And nowadays they have a system, you can see that in the video, where a provider who wants to perform some works in a street fills a form, picks some streets, some infrastructures, and is able to get data on return. And with those maps, they will perform the constructions and everything they had to do in the city. We are going to do that, but using a data space. It's the data form, people will connect to the data space, they will download the information they need, the maps, and the artificial intelligence will be in charge of providing all the information they need there on the different layers. This could be, or this is nowadays, a few examples about the input the user needs to provide. Public authority, private sector provides information about the works and the changes they are making on the city. We are able to see the different work sites at the right, the different maps at the side, and you can pick this, and this will be a huge change for our data space too, because usually you connect to a data space, you pick a data set and you buy it. What we're going to do is to provide a form or to provide a way to specify the kind of information and the amount of information you need from the data space and consume it. here more in deep about the artificial intelligence. I'm not going to go in deep here, but on the pilot, we are going to go through those 4 use cases that has to do with the operators and with the same city council. We will have Madrid City Council here in the pilot too, because he will be one of the main users. And about the artificial intelligence, well, you can expect this. We will hope that we will perform some relevant, or will provide relevant information for different locations, to provide works, to identify opportunities, to, at the end of the day, optimize the construction environment around in the city. And of course, a data space. Here you have a picture with a data connector at the left, providing information to the data connector on the right. I'm not going to go in deep on any kind of those technical components, but just for your information, each role in the data space will use a data connector to provide or to consume information, and the data space operator will rule and will operate the rest of the elements you have over there that we need them to rule and to operate the data space. But here you have a bit here. Okay. I think that this is only the introduction music and some clicks around, because this is something we have already done in Tecnalia. You can see here a map. We are going to do something similar to this, but more complex. And here you can see verifiable credentials. This has to do with identification, with a data space identification. This has to do with GaiaX credentials, because you know, data space is a huge word, and we are converting GaiaX, IDSA, quite a lot of data space concepts we are converting here. And we have a GaiaX compliance system, because you can work with IDS technology and with GaiaX technology at the same time. And here, what you can see, this graphical user interface is from a connector. You have seen a data space connector, and you can expect something like that when you are playing, when you are using a connector. This is, let's see, the more graphical approach we'll have to a connector, at least nowadays. You have here more complex stuff, like a pipeline of tasks. This is something inside that as an administration you will be able to see. Not a regular user will have such a amount of information. But anyway, inside the connector, we are able to provide this kind of information, this kind of interfaces. Again, we get back to the connector. We have here, you can see here the data transfer, that it has been a success, the information we get in return. And again, clicking around there, we will see that that information is now on the map. The example is not exactly the same one, but we will use this kind of maps and get information from the map and get back again to the map with that information. So really, really fast, and this is my last slide. For the city of tomorrow, is quite coherent to have a data space. We are thinking about a national data space where the cities have their own data space, federated, connected to other data spaces, fed and powered by AI. And at the right side now, you can read some roles. In Incolan and Tecnalia, we will be the data space authority. We pick Huawei as the data space operator. They provide the common site, they provide the connector for the pilot, and they provide a commercial solutions for the future user for sure. And there you have there the different actors. The Madrid town will be there, the city town hall, Incolan, and some Incolan partners will be involved providing and consuming data here. And really fast. We will chat later on about the specifics of the use case. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Alberto, for this great introduction. And what I really think is astonishing that if we compare, for instance, the roundtable of last year, that we have a lot of announcements. Yeah, we will do this, or we are working on that. And now, not only with the presentation of Sven, but also with Alberto, you can see that data spaces and trusted data sharing are actually working. Yeah? So we have all these very good examples. And also, thank you, Alberto, for bringing this so tangible. Now, we are moving to the first China use case. And I'm really glad that Yunma is with us, also one of the very first, I would say, data spaces pioneers. When I remember already back to 2018, where we met the first time, you spoke about this issue and how you are planning to introduce it and implement it in Huawei. So we are listening to you on Huawei enterprise data space practices. Yunma, the floor is yours.
Thank you for giving me a chance to share Huawei's practice. Yeah, and as you know, actually we started working with data space earlier than 2018. So we joined the IDSA at the end of 2016. So it's almost 8 years. So before 2020, so we mainly working with the concept and study. So we have several projects cooperate with Fraunhofer and IDSA. So, and from 2020, we started working with the IT realization. So we started design the we call enterprise data space, and we based on our internal business requirement and developed our system, and also in last year we make this commercial and put this into our Huawei Cloud and to serve other companies. Yeah, that is our journey. And so today I will focus on 3 points. The first is our vision and our understanding for data space. The second is the key design and also the use cases. And the third one is the main challenge and the way forward. Yeah. So, you know, Huawei has an operation in over 170 companies, the countries and the regions. So it is very complicated, the data circulation. So we identified our data flow with 3 different types of flow. And first is data we call integration. So mainly the data is and the flow between the applications. So they are not leave the application, they follow the process. So we call integration. The second type of data flow, that is we call aggregation. That means the data leaves the business application and into the data lake and to support the data operation. So, and the third type of data flow, that is the data and leave the entities border and cross the IT border and also sometimes it's country border. So we call data exchanges. So the data space mainly support the third type of data flow, that is data exchanges. And our vision is try to protect the data sovereignty, eliminate the data silos, permit data circulation, and increase the data value. In order to achieve this vision, so we developed the EDS and this kind of system to make sure the data exchange is trustworthy, controllable, and verifiable. And that is our target. So we talk a lot about the data space. And what is data space? So our understanding is the data 3 key features, or we call criteria. The first, the data provider and exchange data using the data connector. So that is the first, and use the data connector to achieve the controllable. The second is the data exchange clearing is performed and with the data exchange. So you need to do the statistics and clearing the data exchange. And the third feature is the data space boundary is formed by the scope of the operating boundary. So that is this. If you have operation with 100 data connectors, then you formulate a data space. So that is our understanding. So, and also for the data sovereignty protection, so how to achieve this? Our understanding is if a company A with a company B, they exchange the data and they made agreement. And in the digital world, so we use the digital contract and the technology to enforce this agreement to implement in the digital world. So in this picture, you can see, so you can control who, when, and how, and to work with the data and how to use the data. So that is our understanding. And based on the IDS reference architecture, and the right side is the left side is the IDS reference architecture. So we developed three type of the data connectors. The base connectors, we do the use control at the application levels. And the second we call trust connector, that is at the environment level. So we also do the usage control at the OS layer. And the third one is the trust plus connector. That is, we can control the data usage at even the physical storage level. So that is three levels of the control and the connector. So right now, we already built more than 15 data space use case. And the most important, we developed 4 category and 20 policy implement and the policy. So with the qualification policy and the subscription policy, deliver policy, and also the usage policy. And the use case is at a different scope within the enterprises and between the supplier and our partners, and also one-to-one, many-to-many, these kind of scenarios. And I just give you several use cases. The first one is we use EDS to provide our data to the external auditors. So in Huawei, we have about 300 financial person to provide the data to 100 auditors globally. So we use data space to exchange the data. That increase the efficiency and make the data controllable and traceable. So that is already used in our company between our company and also the auditor companies. And the case 2 is AI training database. So we use the data space concept to convince academic data platform and company to provide our data and use the EDS connector to provide data, and then the provider have the whole control of the data usage, and they know which model we are training and how long times we use and how to use. So that is another case. The third one is is for the partner use this the ecosystem. And in Huawei, we have a big ecosystem for Kunpeng and Ascend, and that is about 15 partners. Before, we really lack of data to share and solve the issues. So now we have the data space. So we really easy to share the data with a controlled way, and so make the collaboration very efficient and also enhance the ecosystem, the chain. So that is one really a good use case. This is up and running for almost 2 years. And the last case is our many-to-many and our exchange case. Normally, a big research project, the participants is from all over the world, and the institution together join the research project. And during the research phase, some data is very sensitive. So in this case, we use the EDS data space to share the data with a controlled way. So the different parties, they can share data with all other parties or only with one party. So that is also up and running. So far, we already enabled 72 connectors and also with more than 6,000 users. That is our internal use. And also, we also published or released our external products. So as I mentioned, we have 3 different levels control the data connectors. So all those we already published or released as products. So we have this at the storage level and also private cloud, also public cloud. So that is the situation of our development situation. So during our development, we really realized there are a lot of challenges. And the first is how to deploy the data connector to the different infrastructure. And we have Huawei Cloud and also other cloud. And so that is one thing we need to discuss, and how to efficiently develop the data connector in the different environment. The second is the data is for the usage. And the usage, normally you need APP. So how to connect the APP to the data connector? Either we install in the data connector, or we one way or another way to connect this in order to control the data. So that is the second challenges. The third one is how to do the interoperability between the data space. And for example, the Huawei's data space with Catena X, how we can do the data exchange, so between these 2 data space. So that is the challenge we feel is really important to solve. And the last slide is moving forward. As we know, the data is flow between the company and between the countries, and we need to cooperate together to develop this standard. And and both at the policy and the regulation level, and also at the architecture level, and also the business level. So that is why we are sitting here and to work together to make this data space happen. And in China, we say the data space, we hope, will be the data circulation infrastructure. I hope we can achieve this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Yun Ma, for introducing to us these very interesting use cases, and also bridging already with the outlook to international standardization to the second session. Thank you so much. So now we are coming to the second case from China, and it's a pleasure to have Qingguo Liu with us, and he will talk with us on the promoting the implementation of data space in the power industry. So this is a different industry right now, and I think you will do it in Chinese, right? So I remind everyone to use the headphones to listen to the English interpretation. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. 各位专家上午好。
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank the organizer for providing a forum for exchange and mutual learning. I'm Liu Xingguo with China Electricity Council. I will share our practices in promoting data spaces in the power industry. From the perspective of Industry Data Exchange Center, CEC has distinct advantages. CEC sits right in the middle. At the top, you can see the related agencies. At the bottom are various companies along the power value chain. CEC is responsible for collecting industry statistics, analyzing reliability, an industry index, developing standards, and conducting all kinds of analysis. All of such work requires lots of data sharing and exchange. So we are counting on data suppliers. We also work closely with data consumers. The membership structure of CEC also shows that data spaces are needed. CEC's members include builders, combined power supply companies, new energy power supply companies, power grids, EV makers, environmental service providers, manufacturers, technology companies, and even educational institutions. These member enterprises are different from each other to complement each other's strengths and need to share and exchange data. CEC's industry data platform has gone live. This is its architecture. On the left-hand side, you can see the various features and services such as user registration, user classification, user permissions, tenant settlement, data products, safety functions, membership services, statistical analysis, and so forth. Members are connected to IDP through standard interfaces. Specifically, their business systems or ID systems are connected to this platform. Power plants and technology companies are connected to our platform. One case in point is Huawei. It's an important partner. In addition, we also provide tenant services to enterprises as shown on the bottom left. We can provide all kinds of functions and data control policies to enterprises. An important scenario is services to registered members. In this scenario, there are many different roles. CEC serves as an intermediary. And at the bottom left, you can see regulatory agencies, government agencies, and third parties. We need to make sure this whole thing is credible, controllable, and provable. On the right-hand side, you can see data consumers. They need to follow our control policies when enjoying data services. On the bottom right are data suppliers. CEC has many data suppliers. They are where we get our data to conduct data analytics. Of course, some businesses are both data suppliers and data consumers. IDP has changed the CEC service model. Under the conventional model, data is exchanged through paper documents, spreadsheets, or information systems. So there were demands for data sharing long ago, but the data exchange mode was quite conventional. It was inefficient, and it was not secure enough. On the right-hand side is the new data exchange model. Members can share data with CEC through data spaces. On the right-hand side, you can also see other roles, such as government and third-party players and technical support teams. We believe that in the future, there will be multiple data spaces, and they will be interconnected. In the first column, you can see data spaces in different cities. For example, the public data spaces of governments. In the middle are data spaces in various industries, such as power, transportation, so on and so forth. On the right-hand side, different companies will have their own data spaces. For example, Huawei has its own data space. These data spaces will be connected to each other. And this way, data flow will gather momentum data will not be enclosed in a data space. Instead, it will flow across various data spaces. Going forward, we'll continue to do the 6 things as listed here. First, we will add data for sharing and exchange based on new demands of the industry. Second, we will promote interoperability between data spaces. Third, as mentioned by previous speakers, we will shift the focus from technology to user so that we can identify more business use cases in the data space. Fourth, we will conduct digital literacy training of all employees so that they can better unlock value of data spaces. We cannot just count on people with IT skills to unlock the value, so we need to provide training to all employees in our enterprise. Fifth, we will promote communication and improvement, iteration, upgrade. For data spaces to succeed, we need to solve the challenges of business departments. Sixth, we will formulate industry standards and specs. That's all we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Liu, for this very interesting and also embracing input. And I think the energy and power industry is one very industry which has a big potential and also a need for these topics of data sharing and of sovereign data sharing. So now we are witnessing the first online speaker, and it is Professor Ming, who is leading the IDS China Research Lab at the Shanghai Jiaotong University in Shanghai. Professor Ming, can you hear us?
Oh, yes. Can you hear me?
Perfect. So welcome to this roundtable. The floor is yours, and be reminded that you have 10 minutes to go.
Okay. Moderator, would you please have someone help me to show the PowerPoint slides?
Yes, this will be me. You can go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, and colleagues, and thank you very much. And the next slides. This is the overview of a China Research Lab, and we established the organization and management team, and also we set up some of the duties and activities. And in the past more than half year, we initiated some of the projects and the cooperations in terms of the smart city, mobility, science, logistics, automotive, aerospace, and other domains. Next page. And these are the tasks that we are conducting at the IDS China Research Lab, including but not limited to research and development, training and knowledge exchange, testing and demonstration, joint application for national and local projects, and also promote and dissemination. Next page. Here, I would like to share with you some of the recent development of the IDS applications in China. Next. First is we are talking about one example. We are developing with Guangdong province, which is Pengcheng Lab. And the Pengcheng Lab is a national-owned lab regarding the computing power network. So we collaborate with the Pengcheng Lab to assist local data groups and to building the urban data space. And we also have some of the deepening cooperation in industrialization of the autonomous driving and other areas. And also we are considering to integrate and connect with the international community, establish a verification and testing platform and so on. Next page. And the second is the Beijing area. We have mainly talked to some of the representative companies. One is the Aerospace Cloud Network Technology Corporation. We try to establish an integrated data platform for data access to data transaction, and also promote the data sharing and business expansion for different application scenarios. And another one is the Qingyang Technology Beijing Corporation Limited. We try to collaborate with IDS to test the cross-border data technology with this company for the cross-border data cooperation. And also Qingyang Technology Company provides some of the information security technologies, on the IDS China Research and Experimental Platform. Next page. Another domain area is in Shandong Province and Hunan Province, and also Chongqing Municipal City. At Shandong region, nowadays we are talking to Shandong InSphere Group, and which is also a group more than 100 billion Chinese renminbi revenue per year. And also another group is the Shandong Future Group, and also Shandong Digital Industry Research Institute, and also we talk to Shandong Free Trade Zone. For Shandong InSphere Group, they want to establish, actually this company provides a cloud service for a lot of local cities for the governmental, electrical governmental services. And for Shandong Future Group, they provide the nationally owned deterministic networks. So for all these companies, we are talking to them and try to establish the future application scenarios based on their infrastructures. And for Chongqing Municipal City, we are talking to Chongqing Municipal Commission of Economy and Information Technology, and also Chongqing state-owned asset big data company, try to establish the domain application data space to serve the western part of the companies in China. And also we are talking to Hunan companies to its Changsha Trade Promotion Association regarding to establish a platform to serve the southern part of China for the industrial data space. Next page. And of course, we are located in Shanghai. We have a very strong connection and collaboration with Shanghai Data Group. And actually, Shanghai Data Group representing the Shanghai government to establish the city data space, which is the first data space in China at the level of the province or municipal cities. And also, we also collaborate with a lot of partners who has a very strong collaboration with Shanghai Data Group, such as the Huawei company. Next page. Next, we are considering the value creation of the domain data space based on the IDS. And this is a new diagram that we have drawn upon with recent consideration. And what we can see here is that we have a 3 dimension. And the first dimension we called the horizontal dimension, we called the data infrastructure dimension. We are considering the data interoperability, data flow, data modeling, and data products and data service. And the vertical dimension, we talk about the data factor. We talk about the data resources, data assets, and data capital. And another dimension we call about the value creation. We talk about the value creation by service providers or data products providers, and also value co-creation together with customers, and also the data value symbiosis, which means that the value created by multi-parties or collaborators in the entire ecosystem. And in future, we are trying to establish the relationships between the three dimensions and try to establish the metrics and going further in details. Next. And this is one example that we are currently working with China Zhenhua port machinery company and trying to establish the application scenarios based on this general application architecture. Next, please. And also we are considering the value creation at the artificial intelligence era, particularly the large language models. Next, please. We are considering the transformation of the business decision enabled by large language models and data space, driven by the emerging large language model technology as well as the data space infrastructure. Business decision is shifting from traditional manual and machine-assisted decision-making to collaborative human-machine collaborative decision-making. So the data space drives the cross-domain and cross-scenarios of the data circulation, expanding the dimension of the decision-making data. And a generative large language model provides new insights for decision-making model design, transitioning from the experimental space of the small model to the imaginative space of the large language models. Next, please. So a model of the collaboration between human and generative intelligent agents to accomplish the business decisions based on the data space. So in traditional business decision, individuals accomplish tasks by using machines or engaging in communication and collaboration with others. Much of this communication, task delegation, and even solution generation involved in this process are often tedious and complex. So these tasks can be fully automated and delegated to agents, helping us better accomplish the business objectives. And the diagram on the right side represents the future application scenario of the human plus generative intelligent agents. AI does the most of so the large language models driven generative intelligence agents will be the new paradigm for value creation in data sharing era for the business decisions. Compared to the generic large language models, customized large language models based on special fine-tune of the domain data will create a higher value in the field of the business decision in vertical industries. Next, please. And we are considering another scenario of the value creation in social mass crowdsourcing and group intelligence collaborative data space. Next. Actually, nowadays in China, we are shifting from in the last century from mass production to mass customization, and nowadays we are talking about a mass individualization or mass personalization. And based on this mass personalization application model or production model, on the new business model we call the social co-innovation ecosystem is coming. We are talking about the open innovation, co-design, co-development, co-production, and co-commercialization. And this new model requires the social resource we call it the innovative crowd and sharing resources in industry. So we call it the social resource orchestrator. For this social resource orchestrator, it requires the enterprise modeling, relationship analysis, value identification, and resource allocation, and collaborative containers, and so on. And actually, we established the relationships between these functions and with the models that are provided by the IDS architecture model will be presented on the right side of this PowerPoint slides. Next, please. And so we are promoting that from the past application scenarios of the based on the IDS such as SCSN, data pools, Catena-X, and then the next stage may be the social resource orchestrator. We are calling for the social engagement, co-ideation, ideation, social validation, co-development, and co-commercialization, and experimental communication, such these kinds of the business space. And based on this business space, and we are looking forward the new application based on the data space. Next page. So this here is the SRO architecting, and we established the general frameworks for SRO, such as the meta business model, flexible value network, co-consumption, and social supply. And based on these collaborative frameworks, we are looking forward the new application of the IDS. Next. So the potential IDS applications in this application scenario, it calls for the data collaboration for open ideation, data collaboration for co-design, for co-development, for co-production, and co-commercialization. Next. So, and also in platform-based industrial co-intelligent systems, IDS is applied for collaboration for system assessment and authorization in industry, and for demand inventory co-optimization in industry, and for risk perception and cooperation control in industry, and for business self-organized configuration in industry, and so on. This ends my presentation, and thank you for your time, and thank you. Okay, that's the end.
Thank you very much, Professor Ming, for this great overview and also for the relations and, the relations especially for these AI topics. Thank you very much to Shanghai. So now we are entering into the first panel discussion. And to open this panel discussion, I want to ask Oscar Lazaro from Innovalia to summarize a little bit his input he brought with him. I think, Oscar, as you are involved in many manufacturing initiatives and activities. You could also relate your input a little bit to the manufacturing activities. Oskar, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Thorsten, and thank you the organizers for providing us the opportunity today to participate in the event. So let me just state a few or make a few statements so we can fit the discussion of the panel. I think by now it is quite clear that I think globally, but particularly in Europe, we are not talking anymore about technology. We are talking about new European economic spaces. And these new economic spaces depart from the European single market that we successfully set up in Europe in 1993 with a new endeavor of common European data spaces that we are now taking 2023, 2024 as main milestone, but we should keep in our on our mind as well the importance of the net zero target for 2023. So with these three main pillars, we are creating the new values for economy. So the big question is what has brought us so far, that is technology. So from technology, we have gone into reality. Now we are facing some real challenges. And this is what is driving these use cases and these needs for sharing information in new ways. Where is that we stand today? We stand today with the reality that one data is used for one use, for one application. And this implies that basically we are building still bridges, but not spaces, when we have to deal with data. Also, when we look at our chains, global, local, nationals, usually we have one partner, one project. And that means that we are not yet in the situation where we can actually build what we call these multilateral data networks that are the big promise of data spaces. So what is the big question? The big question is how we really achieve what we call in the industry domain 360 data integration. If we want to reach these 360 data integrations, data spaces is really the technology that we have to build upon to connect not only our internal company processes. We have heard very nice examples from Huawei in this respect. But moreover, we have to think in terms of cross-company collaboration. We have to think in terms of industrial AI, be it the large language models that we heard in the last time, or other type of AI models that we have to build together. So what is the path or the road ahead from my point of view? From my point of view, we are actually moving from the status quo that in the industrial domain is to build what we call ecosystems, so systems that are really focused on the data that I can manage in my process inside my factory, into what IDSA has been promoted from day one. That is really the development of a strong cross-sectorial ecosystems. And why we are now so much focused on ecosystems? If we have heard Sven from the automotive industry bringing forward really global challenges. Supply chains are global. Carbon footprint calculation is a global task. Building the digital product passport is actually a global endeavor. And what is actually stopping, or what is the major element that could speed up and stimulate this global data sharing? In terms of data sharing, we have to live with the reality that, I think Boris mentioned this in Paris a few months ago, data moves at the speed of trust. And I took notice of that, okay? And it's a big reality. I mean, and trust can be built in many different ways. We are building technology to generate trust. We are building as well legal framework and rules for the data spaces to promote that. And which are some of the most relevant or latest initiatives to develop this trust at global level. Obviously, these roundtables really support and help that industry, private industry, public organizations can build this mutual trust for the development and for the investment of this type of technology. But industry is also taking some steps. And I would like to highlight one very recent that was announced in the last quarter of 2023 that is the initiative by the manufacturing industry to make a global initiative that is called the Industrial Manufacturing X Council, where precisely what is being defined is which are the rules that we have to put at a global level to make sure that the industrial change can really work. How we make data work at international level. IDSA is a technical enabler, but we really need that each of the regions, each of the nations in the country really join forces. So far, we have close to 11 of the most advanced and highest economies in the OECD promoting this type of initiative. And this type of industry-led, government-supported initiative is really what can really create the industrial impact that we need for the development of data spaces. This is the global vision, but Europe is also moving ahead. And Sven did the nice presentation for me. He included the Smart Tenants logo, the By Data logo, the data space, Catena X. So he really did an excellent effort in bringing together the global initiatives that we have on the stage. But I would like to mention one specifically, that is Smart Tenants. Smart Tenants is actually one initiative that has been initiated in the last quarter of 2024 that acknowledge what we have seen in many of the presentations, that data spaces will not live alone. We need to interoperate, we need to interconnect, and we need to make all these data spaces work together. I think it was our colleague from CEC that was showing so many interconnection between the public, the private, the sectors, enterprise data spaces. This is really what we are moving forward. How we are doing that in Europe, at least for the manufacturing sector, basically through a very large initiative that is bringing together the key players and the key data spaces, data for Industry X, Catena X, SCSN, By Data, and many others, to really make sure that this can live as a unique federation that can interoperate across Europe. And I will take just 2-3 minutes to summarize and to highlight that even if we are here talking about a global roundtable, things need to be built local. If we don't connect local ecosystems with our global vision, then we will miss something in between. And for this, I would like to highlight one very recent initiative that was strongly promoted and that we built together in Spain with the support of IDSA, that is a local ecosystem called By Data. By Data is not just about infrastructures. Actually, we are facing here one of the biggest challenges that we have ahead now, that we move from technology to the use case. How we can put together ecosystems. And ecosystems actually require not only from infrastructure, it requires from talent, it requires from applications, it requires from data, and requires from services, and requires from certification. And building this global vision with a local approach, we are doing this basically supporting activities in 4 main pillars. That means we are working on innovation. Data space is all about innovation, but it's also about ecosystem, talent, and knowledge sharing. And I think this is a good example of knowledge sharing. And what are the achievements? Because we can say that this is a nice initiative, how to start working into making ecosystem works. I would like just to spend the last minute and a half, keeping time control, sharing some of the achievements that from this initiative that was started in May 2022. So it's a relatively young initiative. It is a good example that you can achieve significant success in terms of developing ecosystems. In By Data, actually, we have been able to build already 10 business cases that cover 7 data spaces. And all this is supported by an infrastructure that is facilitated as a service for the whole community with the support of SQS. We have heard about data certification, so again, big applause to our colleagues from the systems. but the actual evaluation facility that provided and supported in all this evaluation of the connectors, so it can be trusted, is actually based at the very core of ByData. And I think Begoña, for everyone that is interested in the certification program, is also present in the room. And one of the big things or the big questions when we are facing data spaces now is it worth the effort? Is it worth the investment? Can I make money or create a benefit out of ByData? We are very proud to announce that in 2022, we put together an operational data space, and in 2023, we received the National Award for the most advanced application based on data space technology. So data spaces are actually delivering money. If you want to join us, please be our guest for the 8th of May, and you can really take part and join where actually data spaces happen. So be our guest in ByData. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Oscar, for this input and also for relating some of the dots which have not been mentioned so far. Thank you. So I'm now speaking to our online participants. Professor Ming, we have seen that you have raised your hand. I will introduce you into the panel in a minute. But also the other online panelists, please raise your hand. We are watching you and try to bring you into the discussion, as well as all other speakers. So if you have something to respond, for instance, to Oscar, please give me a sign or simply press the button. Then your light is on. Then you can speak up. But first, I have already seen one red light, Götz Brasche, who is leading the research center of Huawei in Munich. I think you oversee a lot of things. You want to react on the input of Oscar and on the challenges discussion in general.
I would like to copy Oscar. Actually, I thought about what can I bring to the table, and we saw already technology, spaces, interoperability, applications. But my key point is indeed that at the moment this is all very regional and very sector specific. In this sense, we have the spaces, and I'm pretty sure that we will have the technology in place, like technology for utility. But I think the key point is the data. So we talk about data in the first place and then spaces. So we have the spaces now, we have to interconnect them, which is a key question that Huawei has. But in order to do that, I had a discussion yesterday evening also with Boris, we have to think about foundational models. These models which more or less enable then these regional ecosystems to interconnect to global ecosystems. So I think a key challenge in the future will be to think about how do we get to these foundational models. And I'm really happy to see that there is initiative already going on to make this in the manufacturing space a global foundational model. Now, what I saw also, many of the people are still talking very much about the technology. And we are not the border towards the user centricity. So technology assets, I think we have. And then we talked about applications. And it looks like very easy to connect to a data space because of the connectors. And then we have the applications. But I think what is missing is, and that is also what you brought up, Oscar, is the talent and the education. We are experts, but many of the people who have to deal with the data and the data spaces, they have to feed in the data. They have to be educated to do that. And in this sense, my appeal would be that we have to think about data preparation, data education. So this is what Alberto called data planning, if I understand that properly. So this is something that we now should also shift focus to interoperability on a global space based on foundational models and the data preparation phase, which you should not forget. Otherwise, we will have spaces which are empty. Thank you.
Thank you, Götz, on this input. And as I have mentioned, Professor Ming has raised his hand. Can we connect Professor Ming to the panel?
Oh, yes.
So, Professor Ming, please speak up.
Can you hear me?
We can, yes, we hear you.
Yes. I just promoted one issue for discussion. Nowadays, when we collaborate with Shanghai Data Group, when we talk about how to establish the city data space, we are considering the data infrastructure, because for the entire city, we have different domains of the data space. And is there any common data infrastructure we can establish? We are considering the 4 layers of the data infrastructure. The layer 1 is the interoperability of data, and the layer 2 is the data sharing, and the layer 3 is the data modeling, including the large language modeling based on the data. And the layer 4, we talk about the data product as an application and a service. And layer 5, how we can establish the ecosystem to allow the different players and the collaborators to work together. So I just promote this issue and for discussion.
Professor Ming, for your input. Any spontaneous reactions or uptakes on what we have just discussed, also regarding the input of Oscar, of Götz, and of Professor Ming? Yun. Yes.
I think we should make the data space and the concept not too big. And we should make sure the data space, the main purpose is for the data cross-border exchange or cross-entity exchange. So the rest of things should be handled by other concept, because data and the data lake and data space, those kind of data infrastructure are already there for quite a long time. And the data space, we should focus on the controllable data exchange. And so that is what I want to say. So, and you put everything to data space, that will make things so complicated and cannot be really implemented. That is my opinion.
Thank you. And so Alberto and Sven, please speak up.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just as a follow-up, I completely agree. And I think that the bigger we think, the more complicated it is. The technology is here. We can build data spaces now, and we want to federate them. So we can do today that. Just build as many, just run as many data spaces as possible, because you will know how to deal with the data, how to interact with the data space. You will learn a lot about interoperability, about your own requirements, what you need to play inside a data space. So later on, you can federate your data space, or you can later on join more bigger data spaces, more configurable. So I think that's completely agree. Technology is not a problem. We can play with a lot of providers, with open source code, with a lot of solutions. And the business and getting people, companies, organizations close to the data space, exchange the data is the most important thing. Even if it is a small use case, even if it is only 5, 10 partners exchanging data, if they can pay for it, if they can dedicate time, people, effort, do that, because it's the way. It's the way that we will reach the federation of the data spaces, and we will reach the biggest ones, the European ones, for sure.
Thank you, Alberto. Sven.
Yeah, my comment quick to Götz, what you outlined. I think you're totally right? Makes the system work for data spaces and then foundational model for data. I like this idea because data is also, from my point of view, nothing new. We worked with it over the last years, but there's one but, right? Mainly it was addressed to establish these kind of foundational models, data lakes, data warehouses, data lake houses in the past, mainly for big organizations. And I think what we have to have a specific eye on is that the small, medium enterprises should make it different and join this journey of make data work, right? And this is a little bit what is missing over the past. When I'm looking back a little bit, for that reason, I wouldn't overcomplicate it. That's my but. The foundational model increase the complexity, right? Dramatically and immediately, even for smaller ones. For that reason, let us stick to the niche data space to share data, and let us now focus on simplification of makes the data work in the sense of business value innovations, use case innovations, and let us work with product carbon footprint and one prominent example, or digital product pass as another one, and then work with the SMEs and the small medium enterprise. That is my comment, instead of make it more complicated.
Thank you, Sven. So I'm looking into the round again. If we have any speakers, Vaibhav, yes, also your input.
Just want to add one thought in it, which Oscar mentioned, and also with Guts to agree on part of the training, to have the experts who understand this data, but also how the regional evolving is important, considering you want to go to global, the data space. I believe some agencies started working in this side, OETC you mentioned, which has been working quite long. Kayaks for the Europe-centric, they started also, and I believe that would be kind of approach is moving ahead, that enabling the localized data space first so that it enables the connectivity with the larger global enterprise level. And this not only is a data space considered, I believe the security issues also been considered as the AI coming in. This amalgam is only, I believe right now so far addressed by kayaks quite a lot. That's what I like to include in the podium. Thanks.
Thank you. Oscar.
No, simply to point out, obviously I agree, and I think the focus that was raised by Junma, I think is really important that we don't lose that focus. But also we will face one challenge that we need to learn how to deal with, is that we will see data spaces flourish, and if we don't, from the design, share and build those regional data spaces on the well-established foundational models, like the ones that IDSA is providing, that Gaia-X is adopting for Europe, but we want to see that moving across the space, across the globe. It will be relatively difficult later to make the federation easy to implement. It is easy to depict on a PowerPoint. If we don't start with these minimum agreements on foundational architectural models, looking already for interoperability. So starting to think in terms of what is the protocol that will make a data space talk to each other. So we can actually think in terms of interoperability while we start regionally. I think this is very important if we really ever want to see this being operated at global stage. So focus, standardization of foundational models, and start small but think big. I think these three elements we need to master now.
Thank you, Oscar, for this input as well. And maybe I'm looking towards Lars and Boris. Lars, maybe you are in the position, because IDSA should have, and I know that we have an overview of a lot of activities, and we have heard now a couple of requirements or challenges, but also mentioning, for instance, when for SME engagement. What is your plea, or what is your view on these challenges? Maybe you can just point to the one or the other topic which come in your mind when we are talking about this.
Well, one most important element is that we have all of these people together. This is an achievement already. It has been mentioned several times. We need to go for the global standardization, so that we have this clear level of synchronicity. I think it was Oscar targeting to a fundamental protocol, and here we need to see that we maybe do some things in parallel. So for the very data exchange, we have the data space protocol, which is in a very advanced state. So it has been defined at a version 1, like last week or so. We will now make use of the Eclipse process to write the code and then go to ISO. At the same time, we need to find a solution for more for the trust framework. So we need also something like an identity and access trust protocol, identity and trust protocol, or trust protocol, close collaboration with Gaia and iShare, for example. And then we have these foundations. And then I just can second to what has been said before. We need to start the data spaces from an economic perspective, from a regional level, and make it as easy as possible to join it. And referring back to what I said, we need the software and the services off the shelf, so that, that they are shipped by the cloud providers, by the big software vendors, referring to what Boris said with SAP. I was really enjoying Sven's presentation, how easy that could look like. And this is where I'm coming to this SMEs question. So most of the data is not shared, and this is mainly data from SMEs. And we need to make it, well, again, as easy as possible that we can make use of that data treasure that is like currently hidden in their basements. And we as IDSA association, we can share knowledge. We can provide this fundamental body of knowledge, so to say. We are currently building working group training and a training program so that we make people familiar with all the beauty of data sharing. And I heard that several times from the speakers on different levels here. We need to explain why data sharing is so important and such a good thing and how that works. And this is like knowledge transfer, awareness creation. This is still something that we need to do, and maybe we can also in the follow-up of this roundtable work on that global educational training program. That could be one of the takeaways here.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Lars. And Boris.
Yeah, I think also to follow up a little bit on the many good ideas that have been shared. So first of all, I think we need to basically, well, shadow the complexity, so to say, and come with very easy digestible messages to different types of, well, users and sites in a data space platform. And this message must be different when we talk to cloud service providers or data space operators, because of course they want to understand how it works and how they can integrate it into their portfolio. And as I said, it's a different message that we convey to basically end users, in particular local ones, for example, as Oscar mentioned. And they are not concerned with all the technology and architecture that sits beneath. For them, it must be more important to, okay, what's really in for me? So you want me to join a data space, what kind of problem does it solve from day one? And I think that is something that we should think of a little bit more. I mean, there are many of these kind of metaphors like the lowest hanging fruits or the killer app or whatever. I'm sure they are there. In particular, for example, what Sven mentioned, product carbon footprint is something that everybody has to deal with. And it's basically also relatively, well, I mean, it's not complex information in the end. In general, I think everything which relates to master data, so descriptive attributes on the things that we share in the real world, is something that can easily be, let's say, the first services in a data space. And that is something that we need to bundle, like, okay, please register here. And that is the third point I would like to make. We should also basically guide ourselves in, okay, how is it when we use our consumer app ecosystem, looking up the app store, finding your app, downloading it and using it. And that must be, let's say, our guiding principle, so to say, even in industrial environments. Of course, it's more complex. It's, let's say, we have more security and trustworthy and also compliance requirements. But in the end, that should guide us because, as Oscar said, I mean, if we talk about small and medium-sized companies, you know, the borders between business and is very fluffy. And yeah, they are used to that. And if we do not cope with that, then it's probably a hard way to convince them to join a data space. And by the way, as I said, they should not just be aware of the fact that they're actually using a data space. So I think the good news then, though, is that we have all the bits and pieces together. Perhaps, and then I will stop what you said, Thorsten. I would also like to repeat once more. Last time we had a lot of good ideas, and now we have a lot of good solutions. And that's the way we should continue to go. Very good.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Boris. I was wondering, Gael, mentioning the global interoperability topic. Is there any statement from Eclipse Foundation, maybe, which fits, even though you are speaking later in the second session?
Yeah, that's partly of what I will address in later in the second part. But I was listening to we need some software for SMEs. And I think that of course having open source software is something that, and also having off-the-shelf solutions that can be implemented in SMEs. So that doesn't solve all the problems, but that solves part of the problems. Also, just a word about what you were saying, like having the standard for the data space protocol, and then having a way to have a code for the standard, and then pushing the standards to ISO. I think that's very important, because you know what I like in open standards and open source with open standards is that it's really open standards on steroids, because that's standards that you can use to really demonstrate interoperability and to really start implementing your solution. So we'll continue later.
Great. This is already glimpsing a little bit into the second session. Maybe we can also briefly open up the discussion to the audience. And I see here Shine Liu with us, who is the ambassador and also the coordinator of IDS activities in China. Shine, I would ask you, what is your view on this? And could you maybe bring one or two opinions from you that will fit to the discussion we just had?
Oh yeah. First of all, let me just say thank you very much for having me. And yes, I'm currently the ambassador China for IDSA, which is the International Data Spaces Association. And I think the vision of that in general that at IDSA we have is the blueprint. Everything is how should I put this? It's something very big. I think it's very probably IDSA might be the only one that defined the data sharing protocol in the future, which can be profoundly meaningful and promising. And of course, I think as an observer from China mainland, and I think also I represent Macau, by the way, and I think it's very meaningful to discuss together with data space and with data cross borders. And from the region that I'm from, it's very in particular the case when we talk about data cross boarding, because we'll be talking about different legislation zones, even if we're in one country. So by the use of data space, we really think it could be not like a cutting edge technology, but a real solution to tackle this problem. And I think it really requires joint efforts on a global scale. So yeah, let's just make it happen together. Yeah.
Thank you, Shine. So would you please pass the mic to Thomas Lee from Huawei? I think you raised your hand as well. Your input, please.
Thank you. I just learned a lot from the discussion just now. I think many people focus on the data sharing, the exchanging, and the security protocols, all the aspects. But maybe there is one challenge not mentioned just now. I'm not sure. Or maybe it's not inside the scope of the data space topic. It's all about the trustworthiness of the data itself. Because several years ago, there is a famous case in China that one entity sell out data set to another and goes through a data exchange center. So finally, the result is that 3 parties of people all got in prison because the administrators found out there is a serious violence of the China privacy protection law. I think maybe a lot of people in this case are innocent because they don't know there is a problem inside the data. But is there any possibility that we establish the mechanism to certify the data itself before the exchange? So if we don't, we cannot guarantee the trustworthiness of the data itself. That is a big challenge for the data space developing. That's my one point to add.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So we have one last raised hand. Boris, please, you want to directly respond to that?
Yeah, exactly. I would like to stress the importance of what was just said, because I agree. what is missing is some sort of a comprehensive or integrated data trust model. And I would like to, in order not to consume too much time, but share a couple of ideas. Of course, we always say that, which is true, that trust is a key enabler in data spaces, trust among participants, but also trust in the data and vice versa in the use of the data. And we have a considerable amount of, let's say, contributions with deal with that issue. However, that is also related to data quality in the end. And that is a totally different strand. So these two communities have not find each other. And perhaps we can help them to basically team up a little bit. And last point, this is something some of you may know. I'm observing also the European Data Innovation Board. And in the last meeting, I think it was, there was a reference to something that they want to start, which exactly deals with this issue, the establishment of something they call a data trust framework. So I, of course, took notes and reached out to the people, and let's see what that brings. But I think that is a very useful and also urgently needed aspect. Yeah, very good.
I mean, thank you, Boris. Just to be clear, data preparation to me encompasses trustworthiness of data, quality of data, all that. So the early cycle of our data spaces. That's what I meant when I talk about data. Not to increase complexity. Interoperability is clear, and in the real cases, we will see interoperable and not really federated data spaces. But the data preparation, in my opinion, is something which is very, very important, because then we have data spaces, but we don't have data that we can share because it's not prepared well.
Great. So,
and just to make sure that, so our internal R&D team actually is working together with what we call the Trust with Theory Technology Lab. So we are embedding that in our research, that we have the trustworthiness of data in our solutions.
Thank you, Gert. Thank you, Boris, for this last inputs. And now I want to relate to the coffee break. So we have 15 minutes coffee break. And all who have not spoken up, please reserve your topics with the second discussion we will have at the very end of the session 2. So enjoy your coffee, enjoy networking. 11:20 sharp, back in the room, please.